Good evening, and welcome back. If you are listening from a quiet corner of the world, perhaps beside a softly fading hearth or within the deep stillness of a bedroom, please allow my voice to be a gentle guide tonight. We will not rush this journey. There is no urgency in the story we are about to share. Find your most restful position, allow your shoulders to soften, and your breath to gently deepen. Let the sounds outside the distant world, the worries of the day, all of it become a soft, low hum far away. Tonight, there is nothing for you to solve, nothing to resist. Simply allow your mind to drift back through time, following the rhythm of ancient labor and the immense quiet patience required to build the pyramids. We are beginning with the foundation, the first breath of the enduring stone. My voice will be your soft anchor tonight, guiding you along the smooth, ancient rivers of time, where only the memory of order remains. Nothing in tonight's story will disturb your peace. Welcome this evening's stillness, this gentle moment where the day gives way to the deep, slow quiet of the night. Feel the gentle weight of the air around you, soft and unmoving, like silk draped across the horizon. With a long, soft breath, allow the rhythm of the evening to settle into the rhythm of your body. Let your breath become as quiet as the falling dusk, slow and deep, filling you with calm and releasing any lingering tension with the faintest whisper of air. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast moonlit desert, the air cool and dry. Before you, a faint straight line disappears into the mist, an ancient myth-like cadence of intention. We are about to begin the story of the Stone Mountain, tracing the origin of enduring quietness. If these gentle journeys help you rest, you may leave a soft like or subscribe, only if it feels comforting and natural for your night. The immense story of the Great Pyramids begins not with the arrival of the stone blocks, but with the quiet choice of the plateau itself. The site chosen for the vast work, the Giza Plateau, was selected with a deep, methodical understanding of the surrounding landscape, ensuring that the entire endeavor rested on stable earth. Imagine the early surveyors moving across this vast, elevated expanse of desert. The area had to meet three crucial, peaceful criteria: a solid, unyielding foundation, a position visible from the entire kingdom, and a deep, continuous connection to the slow river of the Nile. The bedrock of the Giza Plateau is a solid layer of limestone, a natural fortress against the soft movement of the sand and the passing of millennia. Unlike the shifting soil closer to the river, this plateau offered a guarantee of unwavering stability. The builders sought to create a monument to eternity, and eternity requires a foundation that will not yield a quiet stone anchor against the flow of time. The second criterion was the sky. The plateau offered an unobstructed view of the northern celestial sphere, allowing the pyramid's architects to achieve the crucial sacred alignment with the pole star, the unmoving anchor of the distant night. This alignment was not just a technical detail. It was a peaceful cosmic intention, ensuring that the pharaoh's resting place was perfectly synchronized with the eternal order of the universe. The plateau was the ideal intermediary between the stable earth and the organized sky. The third practical and most elegant criterion was the proximity to the Nile. Although the plateau itself was dry and high, it sat just above the ancient flood plain. This location was vital for logistics, allowing the immense volume of stone and supplies to be transported by water for the majority of their journey. The Nile, during its annual predictable flood, would rise to meet the edges of the plateau, providing a smooth roadway for the massive barges. The initial work on the plateau was dedicated to leveling. Before any great block was set, the entire vast surface had to be prepared with immense patience. The rock was carefully smoothed and leveled with slight, natural variations integrated into the design. This was the first act of low-drama organization, turning a natural hill into a predictable flat platform that would support the rhythmic, immense weight of the future structure. The air on the plateau was clean and dry, scented only with ancient dust and the subtle warmth of the sun. The only sounds were the soft wind and the distant murmur of the river. The quiet choice of the plateau was an act of profound foresight, ensuring that the foundations of the Great Pyramid were set not just in stone, but in a perfect harmonious relationship with the most enduring elements of the Egyptian world, and the earth, the sky, and the reliable, steady flow of the Nile. The immense effort of building the largest pyramid began with the pharaoh's deep intention, a slow, measured decision by the king Khufu, which set a rhythmic, unhurried pace for the next 2 decades. This was not a frenzied command, but a solemn, low-drama plan to create a monument that would secure cosmic order and reflect the stable duration of his reign. Imagine the pharaoh, quiet and contemplative, visualizing the structure not as a pile of stones, but as a vast, organized ladder to the sun. The ancient Egyptian belief held that the pharaoh, upon leaving the earthly realm, would ascend to become one with the stars. The pyramids form the perfect gentle slope rising from the stable earth to a single point in the sky was the physical manifestation of this serene ascension. The core of Khufu's intention was logistical foresight. Building on this scale required an organization of resources and labor that stretched across the entire kingdom. Yet the process had to maintain a state of calm predictability. The plan was integrated into the natural rhythm of the year, particularly the annual flood of the Nile, which determined when and how resources could be moved. The pyramid's construction was planned not for speed, but for unwavering consistency. The scale was immense. Khufu's Great Pyramid required over 2 million blocks of quiet stone, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. To complete this in Khufu's expected 20 to 25-year reign meant setting a non-negotiable daily rhythm. Imagine the calculations of the ancient scribes and overseers. They determined that to finish on schedule, a new block had to be set in place every 3 minutes, 12 hours a day every day of the year. This figure, though daunting, was transformed into a manageable hypnotic rhythm of labor. Not a frantic rush, but a continuous steady flow of work that spanned 2 generations. The plan encompassed the entire supply chain, from the distant quarries to the final placement of the top block. It required organized communities, not enslaved people driven by fear, but skilled, dedicated workers who were provisioned, fed, and housed in organized villages, built specifically for the project. The work was considered a sacred unifying task, performed during the slack agricultural season when the fields were covered by the slow river floodwaters. This unhurried plan demanded patience from the very beginning. The initial leveling of the Giza plateau, the preparation of the quarry sites, and the crafting of the necessary simple tools, copper chisels, wooden mallets, and rollers, were all slow, meticulous steps that had to be completed before the main work could commence. The ancient concept was that a solid, calm foundation must precede the great effort. Khufu's intention transformed the chaotic nature of raw materials and human effort into a single, vast, organized machine. It was a project defined by low-drama organization and the continuous warm breath of thousands of laborers moving with coordinated effort. The pyramid itself became the physical record of this immense focused patience, rising slowly from the stable earth, as a testament to the pharaoh's serene, deep commitment to eternity. The majestic form of the Great Pyramid, with its perfect gentle slope reaching towards the heavens, was not conceived in an instant. It was the culmination of a slow, thoughtful evolution of design. Moving quietly from the earlier, simpler burial structure known as the mastaba, this transformation was a key moment in the pyramid's origins, reflecting a growing confidence in geometry and the power of organized stillness. The mastaba was a simple rectangular structure built over a burial shaft, a solid, low shape representing the stable earth. It was a grounded design, a quiet anchor for the departed. But as the architects and pharaohs sought a more direct symbolic path to the stars, the design began its upward serene ascent. The first profound step in this evolution was the step pyramid of Pharaoh Djoser, built many decades before Khufu. This structure was essentially several mastabas stacked neatly one atop the other, creating a vast stepped staircase. It was a literal physical metaphor for the slow climb from the ground to the sky, transforming a horizontal concept into a vertical declaration of eternity. Khufu's Great Pyramid took this idea to its logical, peaceful conclusion. The steps were smoothed over to create the single, continuous, gentle slope. This final form, the true pyramid, was a masterpiece of architectural simplicity and profound symbolic intent. The four triangular faces meeting at a single precise point in the sky symbolized the sun's rays streaming down to earth, inviting the pharaoh to rise on their light. The key to this design was the angle of repose. The architects selected an angle approximately 51 degrees that was steep enough to suggest unwavering ascension, yet stable enough to resist the soft forces of gravity and time. This angle was not chosen arbitrarily. It was determined through patient observation and careful calculation, ensuring the immense structure would stand in a state of calm equilibrium. The builders had to ensure that the monumental weight of the quiet stone would settle evenly without stress or undue pressure on the lower layers. The massive square base was the foundation of this stability, perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions. The geometry was so precise that the base corners of Khufu's pyramid are nearly perfect right angles, a testament to the unhurried precision of the ancient surveyors. This unwavering adherence to a straight, organized form ensured that the structure would maintain its equilibrium through every season. The smooth, gentle slope of the finished pyramid removed the visual distraction of the steps, presenting a single, unified surface, a flawless, monumental form that appeared to rise effortlessly from the stable earth. When covered in its bright, polished casing stones, the pyramid would have caught the drifting light of the sun, reflecting it across the sand in a spectacular, non-threatening display of organization and stability. This evolution from the grounded mastaba to the sky-reaching pyramid was a quiet, profound transition. It transformed the burial site from a simple marker into a geometric key to the cosmos, built with a deep, low-drama understanding of material science and cosmic alignment, setting the final perfect design for the long rhythmic task ahead. The initial phase of building the Great Pyramid was dedicated to an act of profound, quiet reverence, achieving a near-perfect alignment with the North Star. This orientation was the absolute core of the pharaoh's intention, embedding the entire structure within the vast stillness of the cosmos. Imagine the ancient Egyptian astronomers working not with telescopes, but with simple, elegant tools under the deep silence of the distant night. They used plumb lines and sight lines, observing the slow, steady rotation of the heavens. Their work was driven by the knowledge that the pole, the axis around which all stars appeared to gently rotate, was the symbol of eternal, unwavering order. At the time of Khufu's reign, the true North Star, as we know it today, was not directly at the celestial pole. Instead, the Egyptians aligned the pyramid with a star called Thuban in the constellation Draco. The goal was to find the point in the sky that remained the most unmoving, the cosmic anchor that guaranteed stability and predictability. The surveyors established this alignment through a delicate, slow process. They would use a sighting device, perhaps a simple notched wall, and observe the target star as it circled the pole. By patiently marking the star's precise location as it crossed the horizon at 2 points, they could bisect the angle, thereby finding the true, unwavering north. This meticulous astronomical work transferred the stillness of the heavens onto the physical, stable earth of the Giza Plateau. The four sides of the pyramid's base, once finalized by this sighting, were oriented almost perfectly to the true cardinal directions. This geometric precision meant that the massive structure was not just built on the earth, but was perfectly synchronized with the gentle, rhythmic turning of the universe. The significance of this cosmic geometry was that it transformed the pyramid into a perpetual machine for order. By aligning the entrances and the main internal passages with the north, the pharaoh ensured his path to the stars would be direct, secure, and eternally stable. It was a physical commitment to the belief that the earthly realm was governed by predictable harmony. The construction itself demanded that this alignment be checked and rechecked, continuously ensuring that every layer of quiet stone honored the initial astronomical observation. The smooth, flat base was the perfect canvas for the shadows cast by the sun, which the builders used to maintain the straightness of the edges during construction. The movement of the drifting light became a constant, silent ruler. The deep silence of the plateau, touched only by the soft wind, and the careful, gentle footsteps of the astronomers was the perfect setting for this celestial work. It was an act of profound peace, demonstrating that the immense effort of building the pyramid was entirely focused on achieving a state of calm equilibrium, a harmonious marriage between the enduring stability of the earth and the eternal organized stillness of the night sky. The pyramid was to stand as a permanent geometric declaration of this cosmic order. Before the first massive block of quiet stone could be laid for the pyramid's base, the chosen site on the Giza Plateau required a long, slow preparation, the patient act of leveling the foundation. This meticulous work was the final foundational step in the origins phase, ensuring that the entire colossal structure would rest on a perfectly organized horizontal plane. Imagine the vast area stretching over 13 acres where the pyramid would stand. Though the bedrock was stable, the surface was naturally uneven, rising and falling with the contours of the plateau. The ancient engineers could not simply start building. The base had to be precisely flat to prevent uneven stress, which would later compromise the stability of the immense height. This process was all about establishing calm equilibrium from the ground up. The workers employed simple, elegant methods relying on the predictable stillness of water and the soft wind to guide their precision. One technique involved creating a low earthen wall around the perimeter of the intended base, forming a massive shallow basin. This basin was then flooded with water, turning the area into a temporary artificial lake. The surface of the water, by the immutable law of gravity, would be perfectly horizontal. The workers could then use the smooth, still surface of the water as their level line. Where the rock emerged from the water, it was too high and needed to be carefully carved down. Where the water was too deep, the space needed to be filled with stable rubble and cement. This work was rhythmic and unhurried, guided by the gentle, unyielding insistence of the water line. The soundscape of this leveling was dominated by the soft scrape of copper tools against the limestone bedrock, the measured tap-tap of wooden mallets against stone wedges, and the continuous low embers of human effort. There was no noise of haste, only the patient, methodical removal of rock until the surface met the perfect horizontal plane dictated by the water. In some areas, the builders chose to leave a large central core of bedrock intact, carving it down to the required level. This natural hill of stable earth was incorporated into the lowest courses of the pyramid, creating an even deeper connection between the structure and the foundation of the plateau itself. This incorporation was an act of gentle resourcefulness, utilizing the earth's natural strength, rather than imposing wholly upon it. Once the leveling was complete, the edges of the base were marked with precise lines, ensuring the perimeter formed a perfect square aligned with the North Star. The builders then carefully laid the first course of massive foundation blocks. These were placed with immense care, often fitted together with near-perfect joints, signaling the beginning of the low-drama organization that would characterize the entire construction. The slow preparation of the site ensured that the Great Pyramid would rise from a foundation of measured, disciplined calm. This vast, flat surface, ready to receive the rhythmic placement of the stones, was the final critical step in the pharaoh's long, peaceful dream, setting the stage for the massive logistical endeavor that would follow. The immense structure of the pyramids required a vast, organized flow of material, and that flow began with the local earth itself. The main structural bulk came from the nearby quarries of local limestone. This material formed the quiet heart of the pyramid, and its gentle extraction was the first major step in the vast logistical challenge that lay ahead. Imagine the desert stretching away from the Giza Plateau, where the bedrock, which was cleared for the foundation, also served as the primary quarry site. The limestone found here was relatively soft and abundant, making it the perfect core material for the millions of blocks needed. This proximity was an act of low-drama efficiency, ensuring that the majority of the stone only needed to travel a very short distance across the stable earth. The process of extraction was slow, precise, and rhythmic, carried out entirely with simple tools and focused human effort. There was no noisy blasting or heavy machinery. The work was defined by the rhythmic sound of copper tools and wooden implements. The quarrymen would first identify the quiet, accessible seams of limestone. They then used copper chisels and stone hammers to patiently carve deep channels into the rock, defining the four sides of the desired block. This carving was not rushed. It was a continuous, careful process of patient precision, removing the stone grain by grain. Once the channels were deeply cut, the final separation of the block from the bedrock was achieved using wooden wedges. Imagine the quarrymen carefully driving these dry wooden wedges into the carved channels. They then poured water over the wedges. The wood absorbing the moisture would slowly and gently expand. This immense quiet pressure was enough to fracture the surrounding stone along the desired line, cleanly separating the block from the quarry face. The sound of this method was one of subtle power, the soft thud of the mallet driving the dry wedge, followed by the deep silence of waiting for the water to work its slow magic. This technique ensured that the block was released without unnecessary breakage or sharp impact, preserving the material's integrity. Once separated, the rough blocks were checked for size and quality. The surfaces were smoothed slightly, often using harder, quiet stone tools like dolerite pounders. This smoothing was not final. It was simply to make the blocks easier to handle and transport. The scene in the quarry was one of organized communities. The work was constant but maintained a steady pace, integrated into the daylight hours and the local supply of food and water. The air was dry, carrying the scent of pulverized stone and ancient dust, all bathed in the steady drifting light of the sun. The blocks extracted here, the humble limestone cores, would form the vast internal bulk of the pyramid. They were the unseen heart protected by the more precious outer casing. The gentle, patient extraction of this local stone was the foundation of the entire logistical endeavor, ensuring that the first great demand for material was met with quiet resourcefulness and methodical calm. While the rough internal core of the pyramid was formed from the local limestone, its outer surface, the radiant skin designed to reflect the sun, required a stone of far superior quality. This was the brilliant white limestone from the Tura quarries, located many miles north of Giza, necessitating a vast, low-drama journey along the slow river of the Nile. Imagine the Tura quarry site where the stone was finer, harder, and whiter than the local Giza rock. The extraction process here was even more meticulous, as these blocks had to be perfectly cut and smoothly polished to form the pyramid's flawless outer shell. The quarrymen worked with patient precision, using their simple copper tools to gently define the massive rectangular blocks. Once separated from the rock face, these precious Tura blocks were not moved across the sand. They were destined for the water. The logistics relied entirely on the predictable rhythm of the Nile's annual flood, which brought life and transport to the entire kingdom. Each year, when the slow tides of the Nile rose due to the summer rains far to the south, the water would creep up the banks and inundate the floodplains, reaching the edge of the Tura quarries. This flood transformed the dusty land into a vast, temporary, smooth roadway of water. This was the moment of transport. The enormous blocks, weighing several tons, were loaded onto massive, flat-bottomed wooden barges. The process was slow and methodical, utilizing sledges, wooden rollers, and the collective warm breath of hundreds of organized workers to ease the stone onto the vessels. The sound was one of measured effort. The creak of the ropes, the deep rhythmic chanting of the work gangs, and the soft splash of the rising water. The barges were then guided by teams of sailors and rowers, relying not on speed, but on the powerful, steady current of the Nile. Picture the fleet of heavy barges, laden with the dazzling white stone drifting lightly down the river under the distant night sky. The journey was a period of profound stillness for the stone itself, a quiet, unhurried passage down the great liquid highway. The journey's efficiency was a triumph of organized patience. The builders timed the quarrying to match the flood season, ensuring the maximum amount of stone could be moved during the brief window of high water. The Nile became the central artery of the entire project, transporting the future radiant skin of the pyramid with grace and consistency. Upon arrival at Giza, the barges were able to dock in specially constructed harbors or canals, bringing the stone right to the edge of the plateau. This removed the most strenuous phase of overland movement. The Tura limestone, now at the base of the construction site, was ready to begin its final gentle ascent up the pyramid's ramps. The journey of the Tura casing stone was an elegant demonstration of logistical harmony with nature. The ancient builders recognized the gentle power of water, turning the yearly flood from a natural event into the key organizational tool for their monumental slow-moving dream. Beyond the vast volumes of local limestone and the white Tura casing stone, the pyramid required a third special material, the dense, hard pink stone of Aswan granite. This beautiful, durable rock was reserved for the most important quiet spaces within the structure, particularly the king's chamber and its protective ceilings. Its journey was the longest, most challenging logistical feat, requiring distant transport across the entire length of the Nile. Imagine the Aswan quarry site located far to the south, near the first cataract of the Nile. Here the rock was not the soft, compliant limestone of Giza, but granite, a stone of immense hardness. The extraction of granite blocks destined for eternal stillness demanded a different, slower kind of patience and much greater effort. The quarrymen could not use the simple copper chisels and wooden wedges that worked so well on the softer limestone. Instead, they relied on dolerite pounders round hard, silent stones used to patiently hammer and bruise the granite over a large area, creating a trench around the desired block. This work was a continuous rhythmic process of low, steady percussion moving across the rock's surface hour after hour, a day after day. The time involved was enormous. To free a single colossal granite block, some weighing up to 70 tons, required months of unhurried rhythmic pounding. The air in the quarry was thick with ancient dust, and the soundscape was a deep, hypnotic thump, 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 the sound of human persistence meeting the unyielding resistance of nature. Once freed, these massive, precious pink stone blocks began their long, gentle journey. Like the Tura limestone, their transport relied entirely on the slow river of the Nile. These granite blocks were too heavy for typical barges. They required specially constructed, massive boats designed to carry the singular, immense weight of the structural pieces. The journey north was a meditation on time and distance. The granite blocks were loaded onto the barges near Aswan, often right after the slow tides of the annual flood had eased, ensuring the river was navigable, but still high enough to support the immense drafts of the vessels. The barges sailed slowly, guided by the soft wind in the sails and the strong, predictable current. The trip spanned hundreds of miles and would have taken weeks of continuous organized movement. Picture the fleet moving under the distant night and the lantern glow from the barges reflecting off the dark water, carrying the silent pink cargo toward the center of the kingdom. These granite blocks represented the strength, durability, and eternal life of the pharaoh, and their presence was essential for the secure construction of the most sacred inner spaces. The successful distant transport of the Aswan granite was a profound testament to the ancient Egyptians' logistical calm. It showed their mastery of resource management, integrating the seasonal flow of the river with the complex demands of the colossal construction project. This long measured journey was crucial, delivering the unyielding stone that would guarantee the calm equilibrium and structural integrity of the pyramid's heart. The immense task of constructing the pyramids was made possible by the meticulous organization of labor, a logistical masterpiece that transformed a vast workforce into a single cohesive unit. This system relied not on chaos or fear, but on predictable scheduling, fair provision, and a consistent rhythmic work cycle that was integrated into the rhythm of Egyptian life. Imagine the workers' village built near the Giza Plateau, specifically designed to house the thousands of skilled artisans, quarrymen, and support staff. This was a place of organized communities, complete with bakeries, breweries, storage facilities, and even basic medical care. The discovery of these well-planned camps speaks volumes about the low-drama organization that underpinned the entire project. The construction effort relied on a core group of permanent skilled laborers who worked year-round performing the precise, specialized tasks, like cutting the granite and dressing the casing stones. But the bulk of the workforce, the thousands needed for the heavy lifting and dragging, were seasonal, drawn from the wider populace during the Nile flood season. This timing was genius in its gentle resourcefulness. When the annual flood covered the agricultural fields, preventing farming, the labor force was temporarily available. The work on the pyramid was thus viewed not as a burden, but as a period of national service and meaningful employment, transforming the seasonal idle time into productive, organized effort. The workers were paid provisioned with food, often bread, beer, and fish, and cared for, a stark contrast to later narratives of suffering. The labor was broken down into manageable, organized units. Teams were divided into files, large divisions, which were then further subdivided into smaller, flexible gangs. These smaller groups worked together constantly, fostering a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. The names of these gangs, often translated as phrases like Friends of Khufu or the Great Ones, show the internal pride and collective warm breath associated with the work. This division of labor ensured a steady pace for the monumental task. Each gang was responsible for a specific rhythmic job, quarrying a set number of blocks, transporting them to the river, or dragging them up the ramps to a precise height. The soundscape would have been dominated by the rhythmic chanting used to synchronize the pulling of the heavy sledges, the deep, collective oomph of shared effort, and the soft wind carrying the distant echoes of the work across the plateau. The organization was a mastery of logistics and time. Supplies had to be continuously managed to feed and support the massive population. The huge bakeries had to produce bread daily, and the breweries had to supply the daily ration of beer, a staple source of nutrition and calories. This constant, unhurried flow of provisions guaranteed the health and focus of the workforce. The organization of labor was the true quiet engine that built the pyramids. It transformed the raw materials of stone and human effort into a state of calm predictability, allowing the immense structure to rise slowly, steadily, and with profound internal harmony. A testament to the power of efficient patient planning. The next stage of the immense undertaking involved transforming the rough blocks of quarry stone into the final precise shapes needed for the pyramid's construction. This work was carried out by skilled artisans whose efforts were defined by the rhythmic sound of the cutters, a testament to patient precision achieved with simple, unyielding copper tools. Imagine the workstations at the base of the plateau where the local limestone blocks rested. The atmosphere was one of organized, continuous effort dominated by the low, steady percussion of tool against stone. The artisans worked not with power, but with time, knowing that the softest material, when applied with relentless rhythm, can shape the hardest object. The primary tools were chisels and saws made of copper. Copper is a soft metal easily blunted by the hard limestone, yet its availability and ease of shaping made it the staple of the Old Kingdom. This softness required a unique quiet dedication. The tools had to be sharpened continuously, a process that demanded constant vigilance and skill. This necessity imposed a deliberate, slow pace on the work, ensuring no cut was rushed or made without careful consideration. The sound of the chiseling was a continuous, hypnotic tap, 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 a sound of organized calm that blended with the soft wind moving across the plateau. The cutters would work on the surfaces of the blocks, smoothing them and ensuring the edges were square and true. This precision was crucial for the structural integrity of the pyramid, where perfectly fitted blocks meant the monumental weight of the thousands of layers above would be distributed evenly, preventing internal stress. For the Tura casing stones, the level of precision was even higher. These blocks needed to be dressed to near perfect uniformity, with surfaces so smooth they would fit against their neighbors with almost no gap. The final smoothing was done using abrasive sand and rubbing stones, a process that produced a fine, continuous, soft whisper of friction, contributing to the overall sense of low-drama refinement. The sound of the copper saw cutting the stone, often lubricated by sand and water to increase the cutting efficiency, was a slow, continuous grating sound. The workers had to move the saws back and forth with a long, steady stroke, avoiding any sudden acceleration that could bend the soft copper blade. This enforced motion was a physical meditation demanding warm breath and absolute control. The copper tools themselves embody the principle of patience. Because they blunted quickly, they had to be frequently taken to the local forge to be reshaped and rehardened. This constant cycle of use dulling and quiet renewal was a built-in feature of the construction process, reminding every worker that effort must be continuous and persistent, not sudden and explosive. The rhythmic sound of the cutters was the first symphony of the pyramid's assembly. It was a sound of immense organized labor, yet its quality was one of calm predictability. It ensured that every block, whether destined for the unseen interior or the radiant exterior, was a perfectly shaped component of the pharaoh's geometric eternal dream, ready for its gentle ascent. The true genius of the pyramid's logistics lay in the annual natural event that transformed the kingdom, the Nile flood. This predictable rising of the waters occurring during the summer months was not a natural disaster, but a planned logistical advantage, turning the slow river into a vast, smooth roadway for the monumental stone blocks. Imagine the scene at the height of the flood. The desert landscape near Giza, usually dry and dusty, was gently covered by shallow, vast sheets of water. The ancient engineers had meticulously planned the construction to integrate with this cycle, viewing the water as a source of low-drama efficiency. During the flood, the specially constructed canals and harbors at the edge of the Giza Plateau became fully operational. The massive barges carrying the precious Tura limestone and the heavy Aswan granite, which we recall making their long, steady journey, could now be brought right to the very base of the construction site. This use of water as a smooth roadway eliminated the most strenuous and time-consuming part of the transport process, the long, heavy overland drag across soft sand. The loading and unloading of the barges were orchestrated with organized calm. Teams of workers whose warm breath mingled with the damp, warm air of the flood used rollers, wooden levers, and ropes to gently guide the colossal blocks from the boats onto prepared earthen jetties and slipways. The buoyancy of the high water made the task manageable, reducing the necessary effort and ensuring the gentle handling of the stone. The flood season, lasting for several months, was the period of peak activity for transport and delivery. The rhythmic work of the haulers and sailors ensured a continuous, steady flow of materials, creating an eternal lullaby of logistics. This organized pace prevented panic and chaos. Everyone understood their task was defined by the predictable rise and fall of the slow tides. Furthermore, the flood served a crucial social purpose, as we noted before. By providing a national service project during the agricultural off-season, the logistics of the pyramid became a powerful tool for social cohesion, uniting communities from across the kingdom in a shared, massive, yet peaceful endeavor. The work was imbued with a sense of collective purpose that transcended mere labor. The distant night during the flood would have been illuminated by the soft light of lantern glow from the barges and the work camps, emphasizing the continuous nature of the operation. The soundscape was defined by the soft splash of the river, the quiet creaking of the ropes, and the deep communal chants used to synchronize the pulling effort. The logistics of the Nile flood demonstrates the ancient Egyptians' profound patience and integration with their natural environment. They did not fight the river. They embraced its rhythm, turning its annual surge into the very engine of their monumental architectural dream. The water, a symbol of life and renewal, became the vehicle for eternity, carrying the heavy stone of the pyramids with fluid grace. Once the stone blocks were brought to the Giza Plateau by the gentle flow of the Nile, the final, most sustained effort began the slow drag across the sand. This arduous but organized task was accomplished not through the use of wheels, which were ill-suited to soft ground, but through simple wooden sledges and a meticulous application of controlled friction. Imagine the scene on the prepared slipways near the river's edge. A massive heavy block of quiet stone, perhaps 2 tons of limestone, rests upon a sturdy wooden sledge. The sledge was a simple flat platform designed to evenly distribute the colossal weight. To the front, thick ropes extended, held by gangs of organized workers, their warm breath coming in rhythmic gasps. The sheer difficulty of dragging hundreds of tons of stone across dry, soft sand was overcome by a brilliant low-drama technique, the use of water. As the workers began their synchronized pull, small dedicated teams walked ahead of the sledge, pouring water onto the sand immediately in front of the runners. This water was not just for cooling. It fundamentally changed the mechanics of the friction. The damp sand behaved differently from dry sand. It became firmer and less likely to pile up ahead of the sledge. Furthermore, recent studies suggest that the wet sand created a smoother, more predictable surface, drastically reducing the force needed to maintain the slow, steady pace of movement. This controlled use of water transformed the rough desert into a manageable, temporary, smooth roadway. The soundscape of this effort was entirely rhythmic and collective. It was dominated by the deep, continuous, rhythmic chanting used to synchronize the pulling gangs. The chant regulated the gentle footsteps and the collective heave, ensuring that the force was applied in unison, preventing strain and maximizing efficiency. The creak of the wooden sledge, the shush of the damp sand, and the distant, constant chanting blended into the eternal lullaby of construction. The movement was never hurried. It was a measured glide of great mass. The overseers ensured that the workers maintained a continuous, non-stressful pace, recognizing that sustained effort over many hours was far more productive than sudden, brief bursts of energy. This organized predictability was the core of the labor logistics. As the blocks moved closer to the pyramid base, they often encountered prepared hard-packed mud or clay roadways leading up to the construction site. Here, the sledges might transition to wooden rollers to ease movement, but the fundamental principle of coordinated human effort remained the same. The slow drag across the sand was a powerful testament to the ingenuity of the ancient builders. They did not need complex machines. They needed simple materials, wood, rope, water, and an unparalleled capacity for organized calm and collective effort. This gentle, methodical movement of stone, one block at a time, was the engine of the pyramid's construction, turning immense weight into predictable motion through the patient application of physics and synchronization. Once the colossal stone blocks reached the base of the Giza Plateau, the final, most sustained logistical challenge began: the gentle ascent of the ramps. These temporary, massive earthen structures were the true highways of the pyramid, transforming the vertical climb into a manageable, measured elevation achieved through the organized use of clay and rubble. Imagine the construction site as a vast, organized amphitheater, where the pyramid was slowly rising at the center. Surrounding the sides were the immense ramps, not one single ramp, but likely a complex, evolving system of straight, spiraling, or switchback embankments built and rebuilt as the height of the pyramid grew. The ramps were constructed from local materials, sand, rubble, and clay. The core of the ramp had to be solid and firm, providing an unyielding surface for the heavy sledges. The surface of the ramp was often paved or coated with a hard layer of clay, which when moistened offered the same controlled friction we saw earlier, allowing the stone-laden sledges to be pulled with a predictable, steady effort. The key to the ramps was the angle of repose. The engineers had to ensure the slope was not too steep a difficult balance, given the pyramid's ultimate height. If the ramp was too steep, the effort required by the pulling gangs would be unsustainable and dangerous. Therefore, the angle was kept low and gentle, necessitating a vast amount of material and space, but guaranteeing the low-drama efficiency of the haul. This commitment to a modest incline was a quiet declaration of patience over haste. The movement of the blocks up the ramps was a continuous rhythmic process. Gangs of workers whose warm breath rose in unison pulled the sledges with ropes, setting a deep, synchronized rhythm that was crucial for maintaining momentum. The path was constantly monitored and maintained with dedicated teams, keeping the clay surface smooth and damp. The entire system operated as a vast, continuous conveyor, moving the heavy, quiet stone to its prescribed height. The construction of the ramp itself was integrated with the building of the pyramid. As the pyramid grew, the ramp had to grow with it. This continuous addition of clay and rubble rising slowly along the faces of the structure meant that the workers were always moving on a relatively flat surface, placing the new layer of stone at a comfortable working height. This was an example of organized calm, and the solution to the monumental height was to build the workplace up to meet the challenge. The visual presence of the ramps would have softened the sharp lines of the pyramid during construction, making it appear less like a finished object and more like a work emerging slowly from the earth. The air would carry the scent of damp clay and ancient dust, all beneath the steady drifting light of the sun. The gentle ascent of the ramps was the core physical solution to the monumental challenge. It transformed the colossal weight into manageable increments of force and turned the height into a series of predictable, repeatable steps. This system ensured that the work proceeded at a steady pace, guided by the principle that the immense task could only be conquered through patient organization and the continuous collective effort of synchronized movement. As the massive stone blocks completed their long, gentle ascent up the ramps, they arrived at their prescribed height, ready for final positioning. This stage of assembly, involving the precise settling of the blocks, was accomplished not through massive machines, but through the simple tools of placement levers, rockers, and the immense coordinated force of human warmth. Imagine the final working platform near the top of the rising pyramid. The surface is dusty, the air filled with the soft wind, and the light is steady. A block weighing 2.5 tons has been pulled close to the edge of the previous course. Now it must be nudged, rotated, and finally lowered into a position often requiring millimeter-level precision to ensure a perfect fit with its neighbors. The primary tool for this delicate maneuvering was the wooden lever. Levers in their various lengths and thicknesses are perfect symbols of mechanical simplicity. They allow a small controlled force applied by human hands to exert a much greater force on the heavy stone. The sound of this work was one of low-drama efficiency. The creak of the straining wood, the soft thud as the block settled onto a temporary roller, and the continuous, rhythmic chanting used to synchronize the force applied to the lever's end. For small, precise adjustments, the workers utilized rockers, curved wooden devices placed beneath the block. By applying pressure to one side of the rocker, the workers could gently tip the massive stone, allowing its corner to be maneuvered into the exact required position. This process was all about controlled friction and patient precision, moving the heavy stone not by brute strength, but by understanding the quiet laws of physics. The entire placement system relied on organized calm. The master builders and overseers used hand signals and quiet instructions to guide the work gangs. A single block might require dozens of workers, their warm breath focused on the synchronized pull or push required at a specific moment. The movement was slow, deliberate, and entirely non-aggressive, a testament to the power of collective sustained effort. The joints between the blocks, particularly those of the inner core, were surprisingly well fitted. This was crucial for distributing the weight evenly across the entire structure. The workers would use slurry, a fine mixture of gypsum and water, as a kind of gentle lubricant to help the blocks slide the final few inches into their perfect permanent resting place. This mortar was not primarily for bonding the stones, but for ensuring the calm equilibrium of the fit. The simple tools of placement represent the culmination of the pyramid's logistical story. The stone had been quarried with copper, transported by water dragged by sledges and lifted by ramps. Now, at its final resting point, it was settled into eternity using nothing more complex than wood rope and the synchronized human warmth of the organized work gangs. This entire system was a masterpiece of planning, ensuring that the assembly process remained a continuous, steady pace of immense organized construction. As the immense outer shell of the pyramid slowly rose, the focus of the builders shifted to the creation of the inner chambers and the secret, carefully hidden spaces dedicated to the pharaoh's eternal rest. These chambers were architectural masterpieces of precision and stillness, embodying the concept of controlled emptiness within a mountain of solid stone. Imagine the work shifting from the vast open activity of the ramps to the enclosed dim environment of the internal tunnels and chambers. The air here was cool and heavy, filled with the scent of cut rock and ancient dust. The light was minimal, provided by the lantern glow carried by the working crews. This shift demanded an even greater level of patient precision than the exterior work. The construction of the chambers and passages had to proceed concurrently with the building of the outer mass. The alignment was critical. The passages had to be perfectly straight and angled, adhering to the celestial geometry established at the beginning. The smooth, continuous line of the ascending Grand Gallery, for example, was a triumph of interior engineering, a vast, high-ceilinged corridor leading upward with a steep but steady incline. The king's chamber was the ultimate sanctuary designed for eternal stillness. It was built almost entirely of the massive hard Aswan granite, the heavy pink stone that traveled the longest distance down the slow river. The use of granite here was strategic. Its unyielding hardness ensured that the chamber would resist the colossal weight of the thousands of layers of limestone above it. This resistance was not achieved through simple thickness, but through an ingenious series of relieving chambers built directly above the king's chamber ceiling. These upper hidden spaces were created using several layers of immense horizontal granite beams separated by narrow gaps. Their purpose was to gently and systematically divert the weight away from the actual burial room below, ensuring that the space remained free from crushing pressure. This entire internal system was an expression of low-drama organization. The engineers designed the structure to manage and neutralize immense force through balanced distribution. The chambers were not built to defy gravity, but to channel it peacefully around the sacred center. The immense weight of the pyramid became a manageable, predictable pressure, held in calm equilibrium by the structural foresight. The atmosphere inside the chambers, once sealed, was intended to be one of profound stillness and controlled emptiness. The passages were narrow, discouraging hurried movement and enforcing a gentle pace. The chambers themselves were designed to be free of clutter, their focus entirely on the silent continuity of the pharaoh's existence. The inner chambers represent a turning point in the construction where the massive external effort met the meticulous internal requirement. The rhythmic, continuous placement of outer blocks was the shell, but the quiet, precise fitting of the granite inside was the sacred heart securing the pharaoh's passage within a permanent, organized serenity. The king's chamber, or the core sanctuary of the Great Pyramid, is a profound statement of the ancient builder's commitment to precision and cosmic geometry. Its very dimensions and placement were a final quiet act of architectural devotion, designed to create a space of perfect still center within the immense mass of stone. Imagine standing in this chamber, built entirely of the hard pink Aswan granite, its surfaces cool and polished. The room is a simple, perfect rectangle. Its dimensions were chosen not by chance, but by integrating fundamental Egyptian units of measurement in a harmonious ratio. This geometric purity was vital, as it ensured the chamber would resonate with the established, organized order of the universe. The most critical alignment was within the horizontal plane. The chamber is positioned with immense accuracy on the central axis of the pyramid, the same axis aligned with the North Star. Even the smallest deviation here could compromise the entire symbolic journey of the pharaoh. The patient placement of the granite blocks, some weighing up to 70 tons, had to be executed with a precision that speaks of unwavering focus and low-drama organization. Furthermore, the chamber's vertical placement was also key. It rests deep within the structure, a quiet island of granite surrounded by the massive, stable earth of the limestone core. This deep placement ensured that the chamber was sheltered from all external disturbance, guaranteeing a state of profound stillness for eternity. The construction detail here demonstrates the highest level of patient precision. The huge granite beams forming the ceiling of the chamber were fitted so tightly together that almost no mortar was needed. The goal was to create a seamless, unyielding box of stone. Above this ceiling, as we softly recalled, were the relieving chambers, a series of stacked granite slabs and empty spaces designed to gently redistribute the colossal weight from the entire superstructure above. The relieving chambers were a masterpiece of structural calm. They managed the immense force not by rigid opposition, but by channeling the pressure outward and around the central space. They ensured that the king's chamber itself was protected from stress, remaining an internal zone of controlled emptiness and quiet safety. Even the floor of the chamber was carefully leveled and polished, creating a reflective surface that, when illuminated by the lantern glow, would suggest a connection to the celestial waters. The only feature within this vast geometric space was the immense single sarcophagus carved from a single block of granite, a vessel designed for the long, slow flow of the pharaoh's eternal rest. The geometry of the king's chamber represents the final successful fusion of sacred intent and architectural science. It is a space built to last through the millennia, a testament to the belief that precision and organized simplicity are the key ingredients for achieving eternal stability. The chamber remains the quiet, unmoving center of the entire structure, an anchor of stillness within the largest stone monument on Earth. As the massive core of the pyramid rose, the builders focused on the final, most crucial element of its exterior, the casing stones. These blocks of brilliant white Tura limestone were the pyramid's outer skin, designed to give the structure a flawless, unified appearance, smoothing the surface and quietly hiding the immense effort of the construction within. Imagine the pyramid as it was originally intended to be seen. Not the stepped rough mass we observe today, but a monumental perfect geometric shape covered in a highly polished surface that caught and reflected the drifting light of the Egyptian sun. This radiant shell was essential, transforming the practical blocky construction into a sublime symbol of divine perfection and unwavering order. The Tura limestone blocks transported down the slow river with such care were meticulously fitted around the rougher core stones. This process required incredible patient precision. Each casing block was cut on all 6 faces to ensure it fit seamlessly with its neighbors and adhered perfectly to the precise angle of the pyramid's slope, the approximately 51-degree angle of ascension. The workers setting these stones had to maintain an exact uniform gap between the blocks, often using a fine slurry of gypsum mortar. This mortar was not structural. It acted as a gentle lubricant to help the massive stones slide into their final position, and once set, it sealed the joints against the soft ingress of ancient dust and wind. The resulting joint was so fine that a modern knife blade could not be inserted between the stones. The final and most exquisite act was the polishing of the surface. Starting from the top and working downwards as the construction neared completion, specialized teams of artisans used abrasive stones and sand to rub the white limestone until it achieved a high sheen reflecting the sun like a massive beacon. The sound of this work was a continuous, soft whisper of friction, a sound of low-drama refinement applied over the entire colossal surface. This finished surface was designed to ensure that the pyramid seen from a distance appeared utterly monolithic, concealing the millions of individual blocks and the thousands of rhythmic work cycles required to place them. The polished white stone hid the rough internal core, presenting a face of calm equilibrium and flawless simplicity. It was a structure designed to communicate not labor, but eternal stillness. The casing stones were a turning point because they represented the completion of the pharaoh's vision, the fusion of earthly effort with celestial perfection. They transformed the logistical problem of stacking 2 million stones into a single, unified, sublime geometric form. Though most of these casing stones were later removed by subsequent generations for other building projects, leaving the rough core exposed, their original presence defined the pyramid for centuries. They stand as a testament to the ancient commitment to organized patience, proving that the greatest effort is often made to achieve the most beautiful, simple result. A vast stone mountain that shone like a star on the stable earth. The immense long labor of decades reached its climax with the placement of the very last block, the capping stone or pyramidion. This final act was not a moment of hurried excitement, but a gentle moment of completion, transforming the rising structure into a finished monument and anchoring the pyramid to the sky. Imagine the work crews on the narrow, high platform at the very apex of the structure. After years of the steady, rhythmic placement of millions of blocks, the space for the final stone was small and confined. This final ascent and placement required the most delicate, precise handling of the entire project, ensuring the tip of the monument was perfectly centered and aligned. The capping stone itself was a special piece often carved from a single, unblemished block of Aswan granite or basalt, and sometimes covered in gold or electrum, a gold and silver alloy. This precious material was chosen to reflect the sun's drifting light with maximum brilliance, making the very peak of the pyramid appear to glow like a miniature sun when viewed from the valley floor. The final stone would have been transported with immense care, making its long, slow journey up the main construction ramp. The sound was one of low drama reverence, the soft creaking of the ropes, and the gentle footsteps of the specialized placement teams, knowing that their collective effort was culminating in this single final act. The moment the pyramidion was gently lowered into its precise resting spot was the ceremonial and architectural climax of the entire project. It sealed the pharaoh's tomb, completed the geometric form, and connected the earthly base aligned with the cardinal directions to the celestial apex aligned with the North Star. It was the moment the physical form of the structure achieved calm equilibrium with the cosmos. Once the capping stone was set, the work rhythm reversed. The immense construction ramps that had carried millions of tons of stone upward now became the descending path for the final work crews. The process of dismantling the ramps began a slow, methodical removal of the clay and rubble, allowing the pyramid's flawless casing stones to be revealed starting from the top and working downward. This reversal of labor was a turning point of profound significance. The building process, which had been concealed by the growing ramp, was now fully exposed. The workers polished the casing stones as they descended, revealing the structure's perfect, continuous, gentle slope for the very first time. The removal of the ramps was an act of architectural revelation, the shedding of the temporary structure to reveal the eternal form beneath. The capping stone was not merely the end of the construction, it was the beginning of the pyramid's timeless existence as a monument. It signaled the completion of Khufu's unhurried plan, transforming years of continuous organized work into a single vast symbol of stability and ascension. The peak, shimmering under the sun, provided a continuous silent reminder of the structure's dedication to cosmic order. The immense organizational effort behind the pyramids included a vital domestic element, the workers' village. This community, built specifically to house the thousands of laborers, was a core component of the project's success, providing a place of hut's hearth, and the rhythm of rest that ensured the continuous steady pace of construction. Imagine this sprawling village, known today as Hayt el Ghurab, situated near the base of the Giza Plateau, close enough to the work site, but far enough away to offer a distinction between labor and rest. The layout of the village was a model of organized calm, built with simple practical materials like mud brick. The streets were straight, the housing units were uniform, and the entire structure reflected the same low-drama efficiency seen in the pyramid's planning. The housing units, the huts, were simple rectangular structures designed to shelter the workers. They were built to accommodate the work gangs, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose that reinforced the organized communities used on the job site. The homes, though modest, offered the necessary warmth and security, allowing the laborers to recover fully from their sustained rhythmic work. The heart of the village life was the hearth. Large organized bakeries and food preparation areas ensured a continuous, unhurried flow of provisions. The air would have carried the scent of baking bread, the primary source of calories for the workforce, and the warm, slightly yeasty aroma of the daily beer ration. This reliable, abundant supply of food and drink was fundamental to the workers' well-being and their commitment to the project. The soundscape here was the low embers of the ovens and the soft murmur of domestic life, a comforting contrast to the sounds of chiseling on the plateau. The village provided a clear rhythm of rest. The workers operated on a structured schedule that included time for sleep eating and tending to personal needs. This predictable cycle of labor, followed by rest, was a crucial turning point in construction logistics. It recognized that sustained human effort is possible only when supported by reliable provision and guaranteed recovery. The ancient Egyptians understood that calm equilibrium in the body and mind was essential for producing patient precision in the stone. The discovery of specialized areas within the village, such as the massive galleries that house the seasonal workers, the slaughtering areas, and the communal areas, underscores the careful, continuous management required to sustain such a large population. This was not chaos. It was a complex, well-managed logistical system designed to prevent the stresses of scarcity or poor health. The workers' village was an architectural statement in its own right, quietly asserting that the power of the pharaoh rested not just on the strength of the stones, but on the careful, continuous support and human warmth provided to the people who moved them. It proved that the creation of a monument to eternity required a commitment to the organized, temporary comfort of those who built it. With the capping stones set and the casing stones polished, the monumental temporary structures that made the work possible. The massive earthen ramps began their long, slow disappearance. This process was a quiet, profound act of earth returning to earth. Imagine the pyramid standing fully revealed, a finished, flawless geometric form. The surrounding landscape, however, was still dominated by the colossal embankments of clay and rubble that had served as the highways for the stone. The removal of these ramps was not a hurried demolition, but a gradual, deliberate process starting from the top and working downward, integrated with the final detailing of the pyramid's sides. The material of the ramps, the sand, rubble, and clay, was simply returned to the plateau. The workers who had spent years building the ramps up now dedicated themselves to carefully dismantling them. This was a continuous rhythmic job, ensuring that the heavy material was moved gently away from the pyramid's base and scattered across the wide level area. The sound of this work was entirely low drama, dominated by the soft scrape of shovels, the shush of falling sand, and the continuous, soft wind moving across the vast expanse. It was a reversal of the building rhythm, a final act of organization that restored the natural profile of the plateau. The slow disappearance of the ramp was essential for the pyramid's calming presence. As the earthen structure receded, the pyramid's base was finally revealed, showcasing the perfect sharp line of the foundation and the immaculate geometry of the structure rising directly from the stable earth. The contrast between the immense finished form and the flat, unadorned desert floor was dramatic, transforming the construction site into a timeless monument. The removal of the ramps ensured that the pyramid stood in perfect isolation, surrounded by vast open space. A deliberate design choice that emphasized its connection to the sky and the North Star. The structure was meant to be seen without the distraction of its temporary scaffolding, asserting its status as an eternal, self-contained form. This process highlights the ancient builders' unique understanding of time and temporality. They invested enormous effort into creating the temporary ramps, knowing they would eventually be removed entirely. The ephemeral structures served only the purpose of bringing the eternal structure into being. The material was borrowed from the earth for a single focused task, and then peacefully returned to the ancient dust from which it came. The final trace of the ramps is the quiet reminder that even the most monumental achievements rely on systems of support that are ultimately transient and humble. The structure remains. The means of its creation peacefully dissolves back into the desert sand, completing the cycle of earth, returning to earth, and leaving the pyramid in a state of unmoving, organized rest. The pyramid did not stand in isolation. Its legacy included an entire surrounding complex of structures designed to support the pharaoh's eternal journey and maintain a continuous atmosphere of calm organization. Among these, the Sun Temple and mortuary temples played a vital role, emphasizing rituals of stillness that ensured the continuous order of the kingdom. Imagine the mortuary temple built directly against the eastern face of the pyramid. This temple was a place of measured rhythmic devotion, built with the same meticulous, patient precision as the pyramid itself. Its layout was orderly, featuring open courtyards, narrow aligned passages, and inner sanctuaries, all designed to facilitate the quiet, low-drama flow of daily offerings and ceremonial duties. The primary function of the Sun Temple was to maintain the connection between the pharaoh and the solar deity Ra, guaranteeing the cycle of life and renewal. The rituals performed here were slow, repetitive, and deeply symbolic. Priests would move with gentle footsteps through the echoing halls, their voices kept to a soft whisper as they presented offerings. This daily cycle of predictable devotion ensured that the cosmic order was reaffirmed, removing the anxiety of chaos. The architecture itself contributed to this calming presence. The surfaces of the temple walls were often covered with intricate, detailed carvings depicting scenes of harvest ritual and the peaceful, organized life of the Egyptian kingdom. These carvings were not meant to be read quickly. They invited slow, quiet contemplation, transforming the viewer's gaze into a rhythmic progression through the narratives of stability. The materials used in the temple were a blend of the hard, dark Aswan granite and the pale local limestone, reflecting the dual nature of the structure, eternal strength and accessible light. The granite was used for doorways and key structural elements, asserting its unwavering stability, while the limestone formed the lighter, visible walls. The temple complex also included causeways, long covered walkways that connected the mortuary temple on the plateau to the valley temple nearer the slow river. These causeways created a protected, organized path for processions, ensuring that the movement of the priests and the offerings was always controlled, shielded from the soft wind and the ancient dust of the desert. The causeway enforced a steady pace, turning a simple walk into a measured ritualistic journey. The rituals of stillness performed in the Sun Temple were a critical part of the pyramid's long-term legacy. They ensured that the immense effort of its construction was continuously honored and sustained, demonstrating that monumental architecture requires an equally organized, patient commitment to continuous, quiet maintenance and devotion. The temple was a permanent, active place of peace, confirming that the pyramid was not merely a tomb, but an enduring center of cosmic order and calm equilibrium. The immense finished pyramid presents a face of flawless, unyielding geometry, suggesting an almost divine creation untouched by human hands. Yet deep within the structure, on the unseen surfaces of the core blocks, lies a more human and gentle legacy. The echo of the builders' marks soft scrawls on unseen stone that reveal the careful organized communities behind the monument. Imagine the interior layers of the pyramid, where the rough, local limestone was quickly covered by the next course of stones. On these surfaces, hidden from the drifting light and protected from the elements, the ancient work gangs left their identification marks. These were not elaborate inscriptions, but simple direct hieratic symbols, a form of cursive hieroglyphs written in red or black ochre paint. These builders' marks served a quiet logistical purpose. They identified the team Philae and the smaller gang responsible for quarrying, transporting, and setting that specific block. These simple tags were essential for accounting, ensuring that the continuous low-drama flow of work was tracked and that the gangs were correctly provisioned and credited for their labor. The existence of these marks speaks of an organization focused on predictability and equity. The system was designed to give credit where credit was due, reinforcing the sense of shared purpose within the organized communities. Each gang could point to their own mark, visible for a brief moment, before the next massive block of quiet stone sealed it away forever, confirming their contribution to the eternal structure. The marks themselves offer a soft, human contrast to the pyramid's majestic scale. They are quick, almost casual scrawls, a hand-drawn record made in a moment of warm breath before the heavy block was levered into place. They capture the transient presence of the workers against the unwavering stability of the stone mountain they were building. The ochre paint mixed with water was absorbed gently into the limestone, making the mark durable yet subtle, a peaceful whisper across the centuries. These hidden inscriptions are the ancient dust of administration. They tell us that the pyramid was not built by anonymous, fearful labor, but by organized teams working on a steady pace dedicated to the collective, rhythmic task. The discovery of different gang names like the Great Gang or Menkaure's Drunkards, a name suggesting a sense of light-heartedness and camaraderie, reinforces the human dimension of the immense undertaking. The echo of the builders' marks is a comforting legacy. It assures us that even in the most monumental works of history, the individual organized effort is recognized. The marks are sealed within the heart of the stone, acting as a secret, permanent record of the rhythmic work that brought the pyramid into being. They provide a final quiet connection between the immense silent geometry above and the humble, patient precision of the hands that built it. The final silent legacy of the Great Pyramid lies in the enduring stability of its form, a simple, powerful geometry that speaks of eternity. The triangular shape rising to a single point is not merely an architectural choice. It is a profound declaration of unwavering order and calm equilibrium achieved through millennia of rest. Imagine the structure now stripped of its shining casing, its vast, rough core exposed to the soft wind and the sun. Even without the polished skin, the fundamental geometry remains. The massive square base, aligned perfectly with the cardinal points, anchors the pyramid to the stable earth. The four sides rise in a continuous gentle slope, the approximately 51-degree angle that distributes the colossal weight evenly and peacefully over the wide foundation. This form is the ultimate expression of low-drama permanence. The pyramid does not fight the elements. It accommodates them. The angled sides naturally shed the rain and reduce the surface area exposed to the force of the wind, ensuring the structure remains in a state of organized serenity. It is a design solution based on the quiet, unyielding laws of physics. The stability is also a result of the patient precision of the internal construction. The close fit of the core blocks the strategic placement of the massive granite in the inner chambers to manage stress, and the ingenious system of relieving chambers all work together as a single cohesive unit. The pyramid is a monument of compressive strength, where every block's weight is gently supported by the millions beneath it, creating an eternal lullaby of balanced pressure. This geometry of eternity became the template for subsequent generations of pyramid building and monumental construction. It taught the ancient world that true lasting power is found in simplicity of form and complexity of foundation. The simplicity of the outer triangle belies the years of rhythmic work and organized logistics required to achieve its flawless state. The pyramid shape is a continuous quiet anchor in the landscape, providing a sense of predictability against the chaotic changes of human history. Generations have gazed upon this form and recognized an ancient, unwavering order established at the very beginning of the Egyptian dynasties. It serves as a physical reminder that true permanence is achieved through a deliberate, unhurried plan that anticipates the long, slow flow of time. The structure embodies the stillness of the North Star to which it is aligned. It is a vast, immovable object that encourages the observer to settle their mind-measured time in millennia and find comfort in the geometric truth that stability and order are the most enduring forces on Earth. The pyramid rests, and its rest is eternal. We arrive now at the gentlest conclusion of our story, where the Great Pyramid settles into its final, most enduring role. The pyramid as an anchor. It is an immense, immovable object that invites rest and reflection in the vast, still sea of the ancient dust. Imagine the colossal structure at the hour of deepest distant night, illuminated only by the moonlight. Its sharp geometric lines contrast with the soft flowing contours of the surrounding desert sand. This stark contrast is the pyramid's final message, a declaration of unwavering stability in a world of constant soft change. It is a quiet promise that some things built with absolute patience can indeed endure forever. The pyramid acts as a physical anchor for the human spirit. Its very size and age encourage the observer to relax their mind's focus on immediate small concerns and embrace a larger, slower sense of time. The immense low-drama organization that brought it into being, the decades of rhythmic work, the slow river transport, and the patient precision of the cutters is now dissolved into a single unified form. All the stress of the process has been smoothed away by the simple, continuous flow of millennia. The site itself, the Giza Plateau, is permeated with the soft echoes of its history. When the soft wind blows, it carries the ancient dust across the surface, dusting the massive base stones and whispering of the thousands of lives lived in the nearby village. Yet the pyramid remains silent, absorbing the energy of the sun during the day and radiating calm equilibrium during the night. The legacy of the making of the pyramids is a profound teaching on the value of long-term commitment. It demonstrates that true mastery lies in the ability to sustain a difficult task without resorting to haste or chaos. It is a story of organized calm, proving that the greatest physical achievements are born not of hurried passion, but of methodical, synchronized effort. The pyramid is the ultimate expression of unhurried strength. As your eyes rest upon this image of the immense silent triangle, let your mind settle into the rhythm of its vastness. Feel the sense of being grounded by the stable earth upon which it rests, and let the quiet alignment of its form with the North Star guide your thoughts toward stillness. The pyramid is a final invitation to rest. It stands as a monument to the power of organization and the triumph of patience, a colossal geometric eternal lullaby resting on the edge of the desert. There is nothing left to move, nothing left to build, and nothing left to fear. Only the immense, unmoving quiet remains. In this quiet journey tonight, we drifted through the gentle echoes of the making of the Great Pyramids, from their earliest beginnings in the pharaoh's deep intention, to the soft traces they leave behind as monuments of enduring stability. Allow the thoughts of massive stones, organized labor, and the slow, steady flow of the Nile to settle gently in your mind. There is no urgency in eternity. There is only the slow, continuous passage of time. Feel the stability of the vast stone beneath your imagination, anchoring you in quiet rest. If this peaceful journey brought you ease, you may leave a soft like or whisper in the comments where you'd like to drift next. And now, Let the night grow still. Let your breath slow. May sleep come softly and carry you into peaceful rest. Good night.